Okay, what's going on, my friends? Well, the one thing I've expressed before I embarked on this journey that I will always be authentic, no stone turned over. Um, I can't be phony, and I get that from my mother. Therefore, I'm gonna broach a topic that's been troubling me for quite some time. And when I began this journey, because I really don't have anybody to talk to, I really don't want to talk to anybody. So I say, let my outlet be the social media platforms. And I'm open to any type of feedback. And I would like all women, to respond to what I'm about to say. It's this young lady. I'm contemplating on whether to share her name or not. Most likely I will. Because of the heartache and pain that she's caused me and this alleged child of mine. First, let me give you all some context. Um, she and I were dating. Okay, when I met her, she was all the pieces. So would I. So was I, to be honest with you. She had her foibles and her troubles, and so did I. She had three children, had three different fathers. That's relevant. There was no structure, cleanliness, no nothing, and that's not anything against the children. That's indicative of the parent. However, once I stepped in, because I love the children, and it's a package deal. Once you accept the woman, you accept the child, the children, and what have you. So they became disciplined doing chores. Their grades went up respectively. And let me know, because I would be remiss not to share this. I was at the apex of getting high. The apex of getting high. Yes, I was at the apex of getting high. And I still was raising them in a fashion that was acceptable by me as well as by her. When it came time for PTAs, I was there. Homework, I was there. And of course, when you get high, you had your hiccups and things of that nature. But for the most part, I did my thing. I was shaking out. So, she and she births a child. And I was incarcerated. And I'll never forget, she said, quote, if you contest the paternity, you'll never see him. Me and my stupid self, I went for it and I didn't contest the paternity, you know. And honestly, I really didn't think that she was that type. Nonetheless, she was pregnant during the incarceration. I never heard from her, what have you. She responded to none of my attempts to contact her. I heard things through the grapevine and stuff like that. She moved. I had no knowledge of it. And she wouldn't do anything to, contact me. So around I want to say June of that year. It was 2012, and she was still pregnant. Okay, so she had the child in October of 2012. I didn't know she had the baby, and my son and I, we called her. We were around all the hospitals, and I finally tracked her down. Found out she had the child. She had a boy. So I get out and I started dating another young lady, and what have you. She and I, we were cool, doing our thing. So this particular young lady named Nikki, let's go and put it out there. Her name's Nikki, and she married a guy, and she called me. I was working for the shit off, and she called me on the job. She said, "Look, I need you to come comfort me. I need you to make me feel good, what have you." I said, "Look, that's the decision that you made." Because I was still upset, torn, because she left me doing incarceration or what have you. And I was a little bitter. But nonetheless, I still had my own woman, and we was doing our thing. And I told her, blah, blah, blah. So I said, reluctantly, I said, "Look, I've been over there doing my lunch break." And I never went over there. She's very vindictive, and she had the child. You know, the child was maybe 12, 13 months, and I had seen him once, and I never saw the child again. Never saw him again. So let's fast forward. I see him about 10 years later, and I call, and he says, as we were talking and everything, he says, "My mother's over there. I heard him, but I ignored it." I called back the next night, 360. She back to herself. You know, she's using vector speech. She's very manipulative. She brainwashed the child, and she's real good at manipulating and using children as pawns. So time goes on, and boom. So I don't see him again. I see him a year later. That's year 11, and now he was 12. Okay. So when we get to talking, conversing, and what have you, he says, "You was joking me about my speech." What I said was, he was 2 years old and he couldn't talk. So I said, quote, my nephew was 2 at the time. I said, "He's talking. Why isn't he?" She brainwashed him and told him I was joking him about his speech impediment. I didn't even know he had a speech impediment. So as I'm talking with him, he says, "You need to apologize to me." And I didn't like his tone, but I said, okay, he's been brainwashed. I try to, overlook that. So I said, well, if you feel, I never said it, but if it makes you feel blah, 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 I apologize. He says, that's not sincere. I said, ho, Jack. Ho. I'm your father, quote, unquote. And I said some things, and I politely hung up. So time has gone on. She told him the reason that I wasn't in his life because I was on drugs. Cool. Now here's the dichotomy. The 3 children I just mentioned, I was at the apex of getting high. And one time she told me, "You're the best father they ever had." 3 children who were not mine. So having said that, if I was getting high with them, but she can tell him that's the reason why, it makes no sense. And much to her dismay, I was getting high, but it wasn't at the apex. I was on the downside because I was tired and I was hurting and I was in pain. So I said, you know what? Let's do this here. My mother's sick. I said, send a picture. He's 13 now. She haven't sent one picture. Not one picture to no one. Not one picture. And when I call her, she's you ding-a-ling sucker, you this, you junkie, you drug addict, wada. What does that have to do with me being a part of this child's life who you say is mine? And you won't even send me a picture. Okay, you cool. You mad at me for whatever reason. You won't send my mother a picture. His quote-unquote brother's a picture. So what's really going on, ladies and gentlemen? Please, somebody tell me what's really going on. Okay, now, we had a situation. I called her last week. And I have a team of mine, we're advocates. And many of them are professionals. So I had her on speakerphone and she didn't know it. At the conclusion of the phone call, we all looked at one another. We were like, wow. She was streaming at the top of her lungs. We couldn't understand what she was saying. And she was going on and on and on. And she wouldn't give me his phone number and all this and that. So she has used this child as a pawn. She has hurt this child. And I think it makes sense now to go ahead to get a blood test and get a paternity test so I can know exactly what's going on, so I can know whether this child is mine or not. Because it's bothering me tremendously, and I really don't know what to do. So I'm asking for you all's support. I'm asking for you all's help, and help me decipher this thing and make some discernments, because in my heart, I don't feel like this child is mine. And I don't want to indict the child and put the child on trial, because it's the actions of his mother. And she's very disturbed. She's quick to say, me and my troubles with addiction and getting high. But she's obese, 300 some pounds. So obviously she has an addiction to food. So how can the pot call the kettle black? You're struggling. You have your addictions. You have your mental illness, which I'm addressing all minds. You need to address yours, baby doll, and stop the foolishness. I mean, she's very insulting the way she speaks. For to be at her age, she talks like a little ghetto. Nothing against the girls from the projects, because all of them not of the projects, but talk that ghetto talk and all that old stuff. Y'all know what I'm talking about, and all the old crazy stuff that I'm too old for, that fools I gotta keep putting up with. Sick and tired of being tired, I'm tired of sick of them. This girl and that foolishness with this child, ladies and gentlemen, I'm tired. And I'm at wit's end, I don't know what to do. But I tell you this much, she's not gonna impact things I have going on now. She's not going to cause me to have any shame, guilt, and all things associated with the things of my past. And I admit everything. I was getting high, I was on drugs, I was a man of immoral turpitude and what have you. But I'm not that man today. And I say that proudly. It doesn't excuse my behavior. But as I said, aforementedly, with other children, I was a damn good father. More so probably than I would to my own. And she would not send me one picture of this kid. Not one picture. So, I don't know what to do. So maybe you all can give me some advice to help me out in that area. And with that, I'm going to end. And you all have a blessed night. And whatever you all do, women, don't use the child as a pawn if you haven't beef with the father or the man. If you still love that man, let him know you love him. Be cordial. Be polite. Be respectful to one another. Most importantly, be adults. Because the one that's been affected the most at the end is the child. And if I'm not the father, the child deserves to know his father. And if I am the father, I deserve the right, he deserves to fight to get to know me and get to know one another. Just get out the way. I don't know why she's carrying it. It made me think she still wants me. And some other things I want to say, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to be vindictive and say insulting things and what have you. That's for children. That's for adults. I'm enjoying life. I'm living life, and I'm satisfied right now, and I'm happy, and I'm moving forward. I'm not looking in the rearview mirror. Not anymore. I refuse to. And with that, I'm just saying you all have a nice day, and just somebody will say, give me something to help me out. Thank you. Peace.